Today I'm reviewing a mid-century home in West Seattle that has some really stunning architecture and an incredible view of Puget Sound. This home gets almost everything right, but one thing very wrong. So let's take a look inside so that when you're buying, building, or remodeling your own home, you can learn from their mistake. So the house here is tucked behind these large trees, but you can kind of see it poking out with its mid-century roofline that gives it this sharp modern edge. And because they've gone with black vertical siding, it almost disappears into the greenery and behind the carport. And part of the reason for that is that the carport blends seamlessly with the rest of the home because it's got that same roofline and the same materiality, which keeps the front of the home looking super clean. Now, what's not hidden here is the Porsche 911 inside the carport, but that's a topic for a different video. But as you walk up the pathway and get into the front courtyard, the home still hasn't quite revealed itself, but you do start to get a glimpse of what's inside through this glass wall that leads up to the vaulted ceiling. And because you move through this landscaped corridor rather than walking straight up to the facade of the home, it sets the tone for an indoor-outdoor experience that the rest of the home delivers on. And seeing the same approach in the evening light might be even more spectacular, where everything is lit up softly and the glow of the interior of the home against the darker siding pulls you toward the entry. Now, when you step inside the home, they've got stone floors in the entryway and this nice leather bench on the right side for removing your shoes. The walls are covered in white oak wood paneling, and the ceiling is done in cedar finished in this natural honey tone. But what really grabs your attention is this picture window on the far wall with a view of the sound. Now, I love that it's not a clear view from here because this teases you and shows you the kind of view you can expect from other vantage points in the home, but it doesn't give you everything all at once. And that's an important element of a well-designed home. Your home should not reveal everything to you as soon as you enter the front door. There should be more to discover as you poke around and explore, and this place does it brilliantly. Another thing I love about the entryway here is that you've got the option to go left or right because the front door is in the center of the home, and that means that it's going to be a pretty efficient layout throughout. And because the ceilings in the entryway are still low, we're getting that same kind of compression that we felt before entering the house, but once you go either left or right into the main rooms of the home, there's an immediate release that lets you feel the grandeur of the house. And by the way, anyone who's familiar with Japanese homes will recognize that this entryway is just like a Japanese genkan, which is a threshold where you pause before entering the home and make the shift from public to private life. It's a deliberately calm space that's anchored by a single moment, which is normally a view of the garden or some kind of material change, and here that feeling comes in two different ways. First, the stone floor that marks the arrival zone, and second, the pine tree framed by the picture window. So speaking of the more expansive parts of the home, the kitchen is definitely one of them. It's got this beautiful vaulted ceiling lined with the same cedar that just pulls your eye upward, and this is designed to be a space where the whole family can spend time. There's a countertop seating area toward the one end of the kitchen where the girls here are reading, and that would double as a perfect place to have breakfast or coffee in the mornings. And there's just so much space to cook here, with all these countertops, plus this big marble island in the center, and there's tons of storage for food and dishware as well. Plus, the palette in here is still super warm, with these light wood tones everywhere that fit so well with this home in Washington State. Now, you can see that they've got some structural beams holding up the roof that they had to work around for this kitchen, but I think they did a very good job of integrating the kitchen itself around these beams so it doesn't feel like they were restricted in any way, even though they actually were. They've got a little coffee nook here with a white marble countertop and a nice vertical tile backsplash that sits just opposite the black marble island with the built-in oven and stove. Of course, the black marble is going to be pretty fragile, so if they're ever cooking with acidic foods like lemon, vinegar, or red wine, then these can all leave white marks on there that can make the marble age pretty quickly. And from this angle, you can see the living room, which I'll get to in a minute, but I think you can now truly appreciate just how much natural light floods into this home. It's an overcast day in these photos, but because they've used lighter materials that reflect light around the room, it's still super bright in here. Plus, they've also got a few skylights bringing in even more natural light, so this is clearly something they paid a lot of attention to. Now, we saw in the first image here what appears to be a little breakfast nook with these wooden benches lined with the leather backs, though the table here is way too low to eat off of, so I actually don't know what they're doing here. But they should definitely get a higher table and start using this for quicker, more casual meals because it's right next to the kitchen and it's a perfect spot to grab a quick bite on your way out the door. But just next to this mysterious little breakfast nook is the living room. And I actually like it quite a bit in here. They've done a really good job of maintaining material consistency here with the same ceilings and the same palette. They've got all these natural colors, textures, and materials with this leather couch, the wooden leather Eames chair, this beautiful fireplace in the corner, the Persian rug, and a mid-century style sideboard under the TV. Now, of course, you know what I'm going to point out in here, which is the artwork on the wall. maybe this is artwork that their kids have made, or it has some sort of sentimental value to them, and if that's the case, then by all means, leave it there. But if it's not, it's really not a good look to have natural tones all throughout the room, and then these splashes of hot pink on the wall. It doesn't work, and it just cheapens the entire space. So I think they should strip everything off of this wall and just keep the TV there. It'll look so much more classy that way. But what I do like in here is the continuation of the black vertical siding here on this side wall. This leads out to some kind of courtyard, and it really gives the room a special sort of indoor-outdoor vibe. Because we've seen this same black siding on the exterior of the home, but now bringing it into the interior just works really well. Plus, it matches the fireplace and the Eames chair really nicely, and contrasts with the white walls, which, if they were to get rid of these framed art pieces, would provide an even stronger contrast between the black, the white, and the wood tones that you see on the furniture and on the floors and ceiling. But I'm guessing this is probably where the family spends the majority of their time together, because it's right next to the kitchen. And don't underestimate that. When you're spending time with family, having snacks, having drinks, you want to be close to the kitchen. So placing the living room here and making it as cozy as they have was a really good decision. And by the way, if you didn't already get the mid-century feeling from the architecture of this home, or all the materials we've seen throughout, then this room just solidifies it. The sideboard is a classic mid-century design with its low profile and recognizable wood grain. The Eames chair in the corner might be the most well-known piece of mid-century furniture ever made, and this Noguchi coffee table is another standout mid-century piece that dates back to the 1940s. So they've done a really good job here of keeping things consistent throughout the home and not getting carried away with integrating a bunch of different styles. Now, the dining room here is pretty cool because it feels a bit like a treehouse because it's enclosed in glass and gets natural light from three sides with a clear view of the sound. They're using classic mid-century black wire chairs with black seat cushions that are really lightweight and just fit the mood of the room. And above the dining table is this really unique grapevine sort of chandelier that complements the cedar on the ceiling and must look really nice at night. And then just outside the dining room is this stunning courtyard that's really the heart of this home. This is the tree that you see through the picture window when you first walk into the home, and with that in mind, you can probably understand the entire layout of the house now. Because when you walk through that front door and see this tree through the window, you can either go left to one wing of the house or right to the other wing. And those two wings of the home protect this courtyard area from the elements, so even on cold or windy days, you can spend time out here. The wooden deck continues the natural material palette that we've seen all throughout the indoors, and really, it's just a simple, calm space that must be such a great spot to have a drink and unwind in the evenings. And because the tree here is so curved, it adds a nice bit of extra shape to an otherwise pretty angular home. But now I want to show you the lounge, because this is where things take a bit of a different turn. The floors are the same, the walls are the same, the vaulted ceilings are the same, and they even have the same chandelier that we just saw in the dining room. But what's going on with the furniture and decor in here? They've gone with a Middle Eastern style sofa that makes the entire room look like a 2-star tea room in Tehran or a hookah lounge in Marrakesh. It looks horrible. I had to triple check this just to make sure it was in the same house. You've done such a good job throughout this entire home of cultivating a beautiful, natural palette that's so pleasing to the eye, that so many people would appreciate, and then you throw this at it? I mean, this is a disgrace to the entire architecture of this home. And to be clear, I'm not saying this because of the cultural underpinning of this furniture. I'm saying it because of the way it looks. Like, who thought it was a good idea to put these multicolored sofas that match with absolutely nothing all right next to each other with a green and purple coffee table on top of another brightly colored rug? This looks like the color wheel vomited on their beautiful home and they never bothered to clean it up. And it's such a shame because they've got such incredible bones in this room with another amazing view of the sound. I mean, there's such great volume in here. The brick walls that are adding new texture we haven't seen before, and this absolutely stunning black tiled fireplace. This could have easily been the most iconic room in the entire home if they had just furnished it the way they have everywhere else. But they've completely botched it in here, and to be honest, I'd be embarrassed to invite guests in here. So I've seen enough of this place now because I don't want any more rooms to ruin this home. So let's stop and think about what we've learned here. First, if you're committing to an architectural style, commit to it. And they really nailed that here with a mid-century facade, mid-century interior architecture, and mid-century furniture all the way through. This is a very well executed mid-century home, which is not an easy feat to pull off. Second, pay attention to what types of building materials are most commonly used in your area. Here in the Pacific Northwest, wood is the most natural building material, but if you're somewhere else in the world, like in Italy or in Turkey, then you may want to lean into stone or marble. But whatever the case is, learn which natural materials are endemic to your geography and build with them so your home never feels out of place. And third, please, please do not do what they did in this lounge. I will lose sleep wondering how they managed to take such a stunning home and ruin it with the furnishings in a single room. I don't think I've ever seen such a contrast between a home that looks and feels so good with a room that's just the opposite. It's as if you let your 8-year-old son design a room from top to bottom. This is the kind of thing you would come home to. So whatever that was, don't do it. Now, I'm reviewing a ton of homes like this one, so make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. And I've added links to my videos on a few other gorgeous homes in the description, so if you're buying or remodeling your own home, you can learn from their mistakes. And if you want to see another home that does almost everything right, but also gets one room wrong, check out this video up here, where I break down a small apartment in Warsaw that also uses color in some pretty interesting ways. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.